Hi folks, in this video I wanted to follow on from my video on disconnecting from your body, and what initially brought that topic on was talking about social media, and I mentioned that in the last video, but I'm sort of on a roll now and I forgot to mention it. So I'm going to do a separate video about this, and it's about the effect of social media, or what I believe is the effect of social media, my perspective, and you can use that as food for thought and apply it to your life as you wish. And so we essentially, with my friends, we were talking about whether or not, or how bad social media really was. And the main thing a few of us kept bringing up was that compulsion we have to always check things and to always be on your phone, and to never be able to just sit with yourself and to just sit in silence or to just observe the world. And what we seem to agree upon is that it's been so gradual, our introduction to social media, and it's become so pervasive that we've come to accept it as normal. And we just kind of think, well, it's normal because, well, everyone has a phone and it can't be that bad if we all have phones. And somewhat you think, well, if it's that bad, well, at least we'll all go down together or something something like that. But I believe that it is actually quite bad, and I wanted to describe it from the perspective of someone who's involved in treating pain and that sort of thing. So in the last video I talked about this idea of notification. So your body is sending you notifications, and the reason you become sort of numb and deaf and blind to these is because they're very subtle. The distinction between thirst and maybe you're wanting something like fruit, like a juicy fruit, maybe is a very subtle distinction, and you can't tell that difference. And so we have these sort of main notifications that we can't really ignore, that would be hard to ignore, like we're generally hungry, or we're generally thirsty, or we're generally sleepy or angry, or whatever it is. But then we have these subtle notifications, these, I feel uneasy, I've got, and we talk about this in terms of like situational awareness and self-defense. Does something seem off, or when you meet someone, is there something about them that you don't like, or and people talk about how children have a better sense of this, or even animals, like a certain dog that will always growl when a certain person comes or a bad person comes, and it seems that these children or animals have this really good judgment. And the argument there would be that they haven't disconnected from that, they haven't lost that sensitivity and that connection, so they can still perceive those things. And why some people will talk about intuition, and how your intuition is actually can be really trustworthy and really accurate, but because we're bombarded and overstimulated with really obvious and overt signals all the time, the idea of intuition seems ridiculous, partially because it's intangible. It's not a physical thing that I can measure, but it's too subtle for us, it's too subtle for our palate. And I want to give you a few examples from different areas from different worlds to kind of illustrate this point. So it's this idea that I watch a lot of cooking shows, not just Gordon Ramsay, and I'm always interested in how, like, they make all these fancy dishes, and it almost looks a bit, pompous. And I'm thinking, all I want's a fried steak, or not a fried steak, just a grilled steak. And I'm wondering, do they taste something that I can't taste because I don't have that sensitivity? In the same way that you have music connoisseurs who appreciate fine, complex, intricate music, versus maybe the layperson who just needs, a thumping metronomic beat to just, jump to mindlessly. They're two different things, and it's the same with then if you've ever learned how to drive, it's that sensitivity of the clutch. At the beginning you don't have that sensitivity, and so you can't figure out how to balance, pulling off the clutch and pushing down on the accelerator, because they've got different sensitivities, and it just seems so alien to you at the start. And I believe in all of these cases we're dealing with the same thing. It's that you have a specialized set of skills. So I've got a specialized set of skills towards cooking. I can tell the different flavors, the different elements that make good food. You know, I can break it down. It's like someone who's a good who knows wine and can smell, allegedly, I don't like wine, but who can smell the different parts of wine, and they have that sensitivity, they have that ability. And in the same way, I can look at someone move and I can see patterns in their posture and how they move, and that comes relatively easily to me, whereas to someone else it wouldn't. But then to a musical expert, they can hear what makes a song good. Not just because you can hear a song and say, oh, that's a good song, but there's theory behind music, there's theory behind art, there's theory behind design. Can you break that down? Can you figure that out? And so that's a higher level of awareness and of intelligence. And I believe that we all have this, and we all have the capability for this for ourselves. So being the owners of our own bodies, we should know our bodies better than anyone. We should have awareness and control, and we're kind of set up for that from the start. You know, we have a nervous system that branches out from our brain and permeates every inch of our body. So all of this, from fingertips to toes to your nose, are yours. You have that. You can, you know, it's yours. You have a control over it, and it's sovereignty over it. And I believe we lose that because, again, it's this idea that over time things just kind of accumulate and happen. And what happens with social media is that it's designed to be really obvious and really rewarding and really addictive, actually. So they'll fine-tune the color of the notification bell and all this so that you get rewards, and you get really strong rewards. And I think that is sort of the counterpoint. So you have I talked about this idea between fine foods where there's a complexity of flavor, and then, you know, a toasty that's just made with a toasted sandwich that's made with just standard cheese, standard white bread and ham, and that's got no real depth of flavor. And it's there are sort of opposite ends of the scale. So in terms of your body, you have your own awareness, your own bodily sovereignty and control, and then you have the result of life and what social media encourages you to feel, which is a watered down, which is a version of things. You become numb to those subtle signals, and you can't perceive them. So hopefully that rambling point makes sense. So now let's sort of talk about solutions and how we see this in our own lives. And I think what I found kind of interesting when I was talking to my friends about this was that a couple of them were kind of resistant to the idea, and they're like, no, it's fine, you know, it's fine if I'm sitting on my own and I have a compulsion to check my phone, because, you know, there's nothing else to distract me. And my point is, like, the fact that you need to be distracted in the first place is the issue. I mean, using social media in and of itself isn't a problem. You know, it's just a tool, and it's about how you use that tool. But it is a tool that's going to tend to cause you to disconnect, or encourage you to disconnect from your body. So it's about how you use it, and it's the point that you feel compelled when there's, you know, a lull in the conversation, or, you know, your friend goes to the bathroom and you're left on your own, or you're on the bus, that you need to check your phone. And I'm not saying this judging other people, I do it myself. But this, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, you know, oh, you're blowing things out of proportion, you know, maybe I am. I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm just trying to show my perspective. But if you are kind of resistant to this idea, I would ask you, are you one of those people who feels a compulsion to check your phone any chance you get? Do you have to bring your phone to the bathroom with you? Sorry, I thought of a joke from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Jake Peralta talks about the only reason you go to the bathroom is to check your phone. But anyway, do you feel a compulsion to check your phone, to always have your phone on you, and to always be checking notifications? And there's obviously going to be degrees of that, but it begins with awareness, and it begins with sort of questioning things, because again, it's been so gradual. You know, I can remember a time when I didn't have a phone and I was okay with that, but I've mostly had a phone, and it just happened so gradually, and now I have a smartphone, and now of course I check everything 20 million times a day. So it starts with just noticing that pattern. Am I doing that all the time? Why do I need to do that? Nothing happens on Instagram. Like, stuff happens, but not that much happens for the amount of time you spend on it. A couple of weeks ago, people were posting how much they were using Instagram, and it's shocking, people spending hours a day. And then I checked, and I was glad to see that I was actually only spending like 40 minutes per day, which is a lot, but it wasn't as much as other people. But that's a lot. It's too much. It's unnecessary, because it's unnecessary from the point of view that I'm not getting 40 minutes worth of value, you know? So begin to ask yourself, is this applying to me? And am I able to simply sit with myself? If I said to you, spend 5 minutes, just lie down with your eyes closed and do nothing and breathe, is that a terrifying or infuriating or annoying idea to you? Because I've mentioned that to people, and they're like, oh God, I could never do that. That's awful. That's the worst thing ever. And maybe that's you. And maybe if you're in pain, then that's part of the problem, because if you can't even sit with yourself in silence and hear those signals, hear what's coming, then how can you know what to do about your pain? How, when your body is constantly giving you signals, constantly telling you what it needs, how can you even notice what it needs if you're not even able to sit with it and hear those messages? And let's go on a quick tangent while I think of it. I would then ask the question, what are you trying to silence by not listening? What are you trying to ignore? Is there something that would come up for you if you were to sit still and listen to yourself long enough to hear it? What would come up? Is there something that would come up that you don't want to hear? You know, is it that you're in a dead-end job that's going nowhere and you've done nothing with your life and you're almost 30 and, you know, all this kind of midlife crisis, quarter-life crisis stuff? You know, what is it? And this is, you know, obviously a bit more out there, but I like thinking about these things, and so I wanted to throw that out there, you know, maybe challenge you a bit. So why are you unwilling to listen to yourself? Why are you unwilling to sit with yourself and simply see what happens? Pay attention and begin to cultivate that ability again. Begin to reconnect to your body and what's going on internally, so that you can notice things and you can act accordingly within your life. I think that's a good place to wrap up. As always, you can let me know if this made any sense, if you have any questions. If you're interested in this kind of stuff and working in this kind of way, and you want to make real progress in your pain, I've got so many resources. They're free. I've got a course that's coming out. It's not free, but that's because it's excellent, and people don't pay for excellent things. They don't use free things, and so in order for people to use things, they have to pay for it, because otherwise they don't pay attention. So I've got this course coming out. I won't go on about it today, but if you're interested, it's all below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, send it to your friends, to your mother, to your family, and let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.